of his way of what he has to say. So, Keith Rozelle from Sales Marvel, it's a pleasure to have you here. And we're really looking forward to your presentation on value propositions, making your business stand out. So all I can do is hand over to you, Keith. Thank you very much.
Very kind. Thanks very much for inviting me onto this session. I've enjoyed a number of recent sessions. The University of York Management School has a fantastic engagement opportunities for the local community and local businesses as well. Let me just kind of move on. So thank you for that. What would be really interesting as we kind of go through this is I want to set some expectations, which is this is a masterclass. It's a half an hour. Let's get straight to the point kind of thing. It's not meant to be, it's not a 2-hour workshop, which often I deliver this as, but I hope I'm really going to get to the point and really going to get you thinking about your businesses, about you as a person, as a professional, and about your value proposition per se. So it's first principles. We're going to define it. Why do we need one? Why is it important? Often we dress this up as a 30-second pitch, if you like, and I was fortunate enough to be judging some fantastic pitches at York Management School a few months back, pre-lockdown, where structure and presentation was all important. Then we're going to see how a Hollywood A-lister does it. We'll have a summary, and then I'll be handing back to Peter and the team immediately afterwards. So if everyone's sort of engaged us now, can I invite you just to go to your chat boxes just now? This is always really interesting to see what's going on. And if you put your city location or your geographic location, how you heard about the event, was it through York's mailing system? Was it through Eventbrite or Twitter or whatever? And if you've ever done a pitch before or never done one, can I just ask you, 1 to 10, how would you currently score yourself on pitching? 1 being, I'm very new to this, not comfortable at all. 10, I'm a master, and be very interested to see any 10s on here. Just so in a nutshell, as Peter mentioned, I've been in corporate sales for people like Hewlett Packard, EDS, BT for 30 years. And obviously, if one has a career of that length, then often you get to do lots more things other than just sales. So I'm a sales trainer now. I'm also a visiting lecturer with Aston Business School, and I'm a podcast co-presenter on brand heroes and villains. And just in case you're wondering, what has value proposition got to do with sales? Well, I believe we're all in sales to some degree. Professor Peter Ball, as being Director of Engagement, is in sales, if you like, for the management school, as an ambassador, as a representative of the management school. Even if you're in operations, or even if you're in HR for your company, at some level, you are in sales. Sales is something that we all have to do. It's just that some people have it on their job title and others don't, but we are all representing the company. Great to see we've got some really confident people in London and in York and all over. That's fantastic to see. So if you're in studying management school, you will recognize perhaps this person, Peter Drucker, probably the father of management thinking, who said this. He said, nothing happens until somebody sells something. And I feel that's really important. So all the other job functions that we've got, as important as they are, unless you've sold something, you've recruited students into the cohort for the management school, or you've sold your products or services as a business, or you've secured funding as a public sector body. We are all in sales. So anyway, I've labelled that point. The question I'm most often asked as a sales trainer, as a business person per se, is this one. So I've got a business, how do I make it stand out from the crowd? Now, if any of you are involved in digital advertising, online advertising, you will have a very intense competition and at that level. How do how do you make yourself stand out? It's part of your value proposition. Great, thanks, Peter. So we've got messages coming in already. I'll try and take account of that, but Peter, feel free to jump in if you want to come in, if there's anything that's kind of burning, so to speak. Okay, so how do you stand out from the crowd? So you need a crystal clear message, one that's not just clear to you, but it's clear to your target market, to your target audience. So here's an example of something that looks as though it's clear, but really isn't. It's really confusing because it's asking us to do one thing in writing, but diagrammatically it's asking us to do something else entirely. So its messages are not aligned. Here's another one around managing expectations. Now, if you're a film purist, as I am, you'll know that this is from The Princess Diaries. And here, the introduction is, hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. He's one of the key characters from that movie. You killed my father, prepare to die. Now that's a value proposition of kinds. He's introduced himself, he's set some expectations, and also he's got a call to action. Now, hopefully you won't be prepared to die, but it is very crisp, very succinct, and there are some clear messages there, something that we can take away and learn from. So the call to action then, here's one from Penrith Station in the northwest of England, photographed a few years back, has a particular call to action which may or may not be the appropriate one that you're really asking for. All right, so let's kind of move on. Many of you will have seen this kind of diagram before. It's what I call a value stack. But I was fortunate enough to work with somebody called Sergio Zeman, Z-Y-M-A-N, a few years ago, who worked with me on a particular deal. And we came up with this pyramid, which is around Me Too, difference, it's a value stack, right up to preferred, you're the person. So we'll imagine that we're a company and we're bidding for contracts, or we could be a university and we're bidding for funding or research grants or something like that. So imagine you're in that kind of world. The context I've come to this with is I've worked a long time in IT sales, and I have to say they are amongst the worst. Forgive me if you're in an IT company right now, but amongst the worst or at explaining benefits. They're great at features and technologies and speeds and feeds and all of that, but benefits are very, very different. So Toye, thank you. All right, okay, I'll be gentle, Toye. So here we go. So here's what you might do if you're in an IT company. We sell laptops, and I always say, well, so what? So do Dixon's, Carphone Warehouse, they Curry's, they all sell laptops. So what's special? Why should I buy a laptop from you or from your company? Well, you might say, well, we sell laptops and they make you more productive. And that's true, but any laptop makes you more productive. And if any of you have ever seen my handwriting, you would know that the productivity benefits of a laptop are not just that you can do stuff quicker, you can actually read what comes out of it, whereas my handwriting might cause you to, kind of ask me a few questions. And you might also say, well, okay, that's okay, but that's at the bottom part of that value stack. That's at the Me Too. You haven't differentiated yourself, your service or your product enough. So what about this then? What about if you could say, well, the way we deliver IT, Toye, and all the rest on this call means it's 30% cheaper to do it through us because of the special way that we do things, and you'll get more uptime. Your laptop and your network will be more available to you. You won't get any downtime. There's nothing worse, is there, than you can't access your IT systems because the network's down, or something's happened, the data center's gone, or whatever it is. But anyway, your laptop isn't available to you at that time. So that could be a benefit, the fact that you have a very low downtime. That could be a benefit particular to you, but lots of other companies, it may be a difference. Lots of other companies may also be able to claim that. However, if you can claim this as well, not just that, will make you more productive and will be cheaper and more available to you, but 75% of our clients renew their service agreements with us by the end of the first term. Now that says about your customer service. That's who you are as a company. That means that customers really enjoy the service so much that they're prepared to renew it again after the first term of service, whether that's 12 months or 3 years or whatever it is. Okay. So that's a value proposition. Those are benefits and those are contextualized. So here's a program that I did for not York Management School, but another management school not so long ago, is that the challenge that they had, and again, here we are at the value stack, the challenge that they had was they had a highly rated master's program. Well, actually, you know what? And this is a difficult conversation, forgive me, Peter, to have with academics from time to time, but there are lots of highly rated master's programs. That's not specific enough, I'm afraid, to persuade people to part with their hard-earned cash for your master's program. I must stress, it wasn't Peter's master's program, but it was another business school. It was also, their recruitment issues, they couldn't get the numbers onto their cohort. And so, cut long story short, there was an 8-week turnaround program that I put in place. They only had 2 signed up to it when I started. They had 23, which was above the level they required to maintain their accreditation, which is all important to a business or a management school. So we've got 23. We're not quite at the end, so we're still going. And then I was in a meeting with a number of other people, and I overheard a conversation between 2 of the academics, and they said this. They said, "We are number 1 at corporate strategy again." And I stopped the meeting and leaned over. I said, "I hope you don't mind me asking, but I just heard you say we're number 1 at corporate strategy. Is that in the northwest of England? Because Alliance Business School was just down the road. Maybe there are arch competitors." And they said to me, "No, we are number 1 in the world." And I said, "What, better than Harvard? Better than Wharton?" "Oh yes, better. We're better than Harvard, better than Wharton. We're number 1 in the world." And I found out that was because the standard text on corporate strategy, written by Jerry Johnson, on the Johnson Scholes book, if any of you have come across that, sat in an office 3 doors away from mine, and I didn't even know it. And so my question to you is, what are you guys the best in the world at doing? And are you telling everyone that needs to know that? Are you delivering that message? So here's my point is, what's your poke in the eye? Be bold. Be bold. Be more confident with your offer. If you believe you've got the best offer in the world, if you're the best sales trainer, if you're the best productivity business consultant, if you're the best IT consultant, tell people and contextualize it. Here's another one. And here's right here, right now, along came a virus. So let's say you're a government body, and you're going out to tender for, we'd like to see a vaccine for a cure for coronavirus, let's say, because I just want to make sure this is contextually relevant. So what happens then? Well, we're a medical research institute, Mr. Government Body. Please give us millions of pounds so that we can research this for you. Well, I'm afraid that statement, that value proposition, still puts you in the me too, because there are around 2,000 or so medical research institutes in the world. I'm afraid you haven't done enough to narrow down that message. Okay, well, what about if you've got a renowned process? We get all the liars in one room so that we'll have one version of the truth for our value proposition, and that way we're going to be really good at developing a vaccine. Well, okay, that's different. If you can get all those people together in a room, be it virtually or in person, maybe that makes a difference. Now, what about if you can say this? What about we reduced timescales for human vaccine trials from 10 years to 10 weeks? And 10 years is the typical pharmaceutical new product development cycle, 10 years. But if you can nail that down to 10 weeks, because you're going to focus all of your resources on it, straight away, you're in that top box. You're preferred because no one else can do that. You've made a big claim and you need to live up to that, but you will then be preferred for that process. You're going to win that research grant. And we can all see that playing out in the news right now, depending on when you listen to it. So here we go. So the guidelines, let's imagine there we're at a 30-second pitch. Here's how you construct your pitch. Remember we talked about earlier, we talked about, well, I sell laptops. That's what we call your offer. That's just what you do. You offer. So here's an equation for the mathematical types, if you like, which I'm a numbers guy, is your value proposition is a construct of your offer, your benefits, case studies, your target market, and a clear call to action. And I don't know if anyone, I'd like to see if you're in the chat box just now, can anyone hazard a guess as to how many words per minute the typical person talks at? So as I'm talking just now, how many words per minute do you think I'm able to talk at this rate? Any guesses? Someone's right on the money there, 130. It's numbers 140. Gusting up to 180 if I get really excited, but I'll try and slow it down while we're on the call. So 140. So if someone's going to get you to do a 30-second pitch, guess how many words maximum you're going to have? That's right, it's going to be 70. So 70 words is not very much, a couple of paragraphs. So you've got to be really judicious in how you do this. Great guess, Phoebe. Okay, so let's have a look at that. The benefits, remember we talked about the offer, the laptop, let's say, is the benefits. You're going to either reduce someone's costs, in which case you'll make them more profitable, or you're going to impact their revenue line, in which case you're going to help them grow their business or grow their market share. So the benefits that my company could bring your company. And then what's next? Case studies. So case studies is where you may have done this before with an organization that's somehow relevant to the organization that you're pitching to, that you're talking to. So I did a deal with Vodafone a few years ago. It was $1.3 billion software outsourcing contract. And the reason that we won, and you notice I say we won rather than I won, because many people work on a deal like that, is because we were able to differentiate our offer versus all the other players in that space, the Accentures, the IBMs, all fine companies. But in this instance, I was able to persuade the client that we're the best organization to use because we've got customers that are very similar to you, Mr. Vodafone. It could be China Mobile, for instance, in the same business, about the same sort of size at the time, or Nextel in the United States, similar business, same sort of size, doing the same sort of business activity. We're able to contextualize those customer relationships, and importantly, they would say good things about us. Okay, so contextualized benefits that your client enjoyed. And the target market, the kind of clients that you're after, look, feel like the kind of person that you're sat opposite during your pitch. So they're all saying, wow, they look and feel like me. They're selling to me. They're low risk. Okay, what's next? And then a clear call to action. That call to action could be, well, this is only 30 seconds or 60 seconds or however long you've got. Let's get a cup of coffee and talk in more detail if you're interested in what I have to say or the benefits of doing business with me. Or it's visit our website to get the latest deals. Perhaps you're a holiday company and the website is always the most up-to-date place to go. Or you want a referral. So perhaps, and this is something we just don't do enough in the United Kingdom, so perhaps who you're talking to isn't in the market for your product or service at the minute, but perhaps someone in their network, personal or professional network, is in the market. Will they give you a referral? Will they help you to find your next customer? So that's a really important call to action. And then use concise, clear language. Now, University of York, amongst the many things that it's brilliant at and famous for, STEM subjects are in there. And there's some very technical language that goes on, particularly in the world of IT and telecoms. We can talk about latency, we can talk about lag, we can talk about all sorts of things that probably a chief financial officer or whomever you're selling to may not be fully aware of, and all you'll do is end up confusing them using technobabble, which is, there you go, thanks Peter, using lots of language, which is if you're hearing that all the time in someone's pitch, it's a turn off. You're not going to get to where you'd really hoped to be. So my advice there is zero waffle. If you only got 70 words or 140 words, every word has to earn its keep, earn its place in that pitch. And there's zero waffle. So the so what test. We sell laptops. So what? Well, we're really productive. Now we're getting somewhere. That's my point. Zero BS. I'm sure you know what that means. Zero jargon. So lose the jargon, lose the scientific stuff, unless you happen to be, I don't know, at a trade show or you're talking to the chief technology officer where there's a good chance that they'll get that jargon and it will mean something to them. So ensure that your jargon is contextualized, or lose the jargon, just put it in plain, simple English or whatever language you happen to be speaking on the day. And number 7, and I love this one, is be bold, use numbers. Numbers contextualize it. So I could say to Vodafone, there are 300 million customers, which was around the same number that they had and China Mobile had. It contextualized, they related to it as something they could hang their hat on, if you will. Okay, or you could say, so as that rolls up, one of my value proposition statements is, I just helped company with their cold calling skills and they generated 30% more appointments last month. So there's an offer teaching them cold calling, but they generated 30% more appointments with customers, means that actually there was a benefit to doing that. Or you could say, I recently helped Leonardo DiCaprio improve his acting skills, and as a result, he won an Oscar. That would be a wonderful place to go. Okay then, so, right. This is where we have to trust the technology a little bit. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to stop sharing that particular screen, and I'm going to go here, and I am going to and also low risk, and a number of you came back with that. So it was make money and low risk. There we go. Right there. And sorry about that. Technology a little bit there. So prioritize benefits in that order. And actually, yeah, Rishana, great. Prestige as well. Welcome to the Investors Center. I like that as well. So there's some branding going on there. Actually, Rishana, thank you for that. I hadn't mentioned that before, but I'm going to steal that and use it more often in this presentation. It was all relevant. There was no small talk. Apart from the initial introduction, there was no small talk or BS. It was relevant jargon only. There was a clear call to action. if you buy now, you'll make profit. It's what we call straight lining. You're going straight for the jugular, if you like. I'm just in the last minute or so, Peter, in the sort of winding up process. Now, trivia. So for any movie buffs out there, did you hear who was on the B end of that phone call? It's not very clear, so it may not be very clear. But anyone want to have a quick guess as to who was on the other end of the phone? I'll just wait for a couple of people to anyone might have a guess. Okay, well, it was Martin Scorsese, the director. He was on the other end of the phone. He was saying, absolutely, yes, Jane Birch, yes, well done, well guessed. Okay, so wrapping up, we in our pitch, we've got prioritize some benefits. Benefits 1, 2, 3, make money, low risk. Case studies. Who have you worked with before, very similar to the customer you're talking to, that you can analogize? Who are you talking to? Do they look like this other customer? That's the low risk element of it. Be bold, use numbers. Tell yourself, so what? Is that really relevant? Do I need to be telling that? So no small talk. And what's your call to action? Is it to get a longer meeting to go through the details? Or is it to get a referral? Or is it just to direct people to subscribe to your YouTube channel? But there needs to be a call to action. Or so you've just had tea and biscuits and you've wasted your time. So where else can you use these messages? So once you've got, and I have a client that printed out their value proposition, and any sales inquiry that comes into their office or any tender response, if it doesn't meet their value proposition, they no bid, they politely decline. Because it means they have less wasted time. And those same messages, they go to their website. So there's alignment, which is the hallmark of all great companies. They're aligned messages. So it's so much more than, you know, a pitching contest. It's the very fiber of who their company actually is and what they do. So can I just ask you, in the text box now, we've been through this process very, very quickly. How confident are you now pitching your business in 30 seconds? So, okay, good, excellent, well done. Thank you, Boyan. And got some 6s and 7s, really, and got 7.5 from Joseph. Excellent. Okay, brilliant. I'm just going to catch my breath just now, Peter. If I could hand back to you, please.
That's wonderful, Keith. Thank you very much. I've not seen the chat box moving so much in all the sessions I've run. Thank you, Keith, and thank you everyone for your participation. I need to pose some questions to Keith. So I'm about to get going in a minute with the questions, and I'll do my advert again whilst I can. We run roughly weekly, and we run typically on a Wednesday afternoon at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock seems to be the invariable time, and usually it's on a Wednesday. Right, I haven't got my copy and pasting ready, so Keith, and I will put a question in the chat box. So to everyone, if you've got questions, then what I can do is post them out to Keith and to everyone so you can see what I'm about to ask. So the question I want to ask here is, what do you do about case studies if you're a new company without clients? So is it okay to refer to achievements, benefits, etc., that you brought as an employee of another company in the past? So new company, can you use your stories from before?
That's a really good question. And again, I would say absolutely yes. Now, with the caveat that it needs to have some integrity and it needs to stand water, then, and I find this also with students that maybe haven't got work experience with the internship or the graduate role that they're going after, is that I ask them to think about situations they've been in. It could be with with a previous employer where you've done something similar. And I have to say, men are, should we say, more open to taking intellectual risks like that. So women, I would challenge you to be bold and be brave like this as well. So look back. Have you done projects similar with another employer? I'll bet you have. You must have some right to be talking to that prospective client about your particular product and service. So what is it? And again, use those guidelines. What was the work? Give them some numbers to contextualize. I was on the phone to a prospective client a couple of days ago, and they're a logistics business. So they said to me, can I help them? And I was trying to identify their target market. And I said, well, what happens if we know Selfridges? I know some people at Selfridges, they send out millions of packages every year, I'm sure. He said, no, that's far too big. Okay, we'll dial it down. Well, how many are you talking about? And it just helped have a conversation about who really is your target market. So that's a really good question. Thank you for that. Did that at all answer the question, by the way? I hope it went some way to answering it. Okay.
I've got another question. I'm also hoarse as well. I've got another question coming up, Keith. This time is about your fun style. And so it was exploring what's your personal style, or what's one person's personal style. It's not a great time at the moment. So tell us more. Is that your trick for the current times?
Well, I happen to have a passion for movies, so I actually do this for a couple of scenes in Breaking Bad, if anyone's seen that, or The Godfather. There's some great material in that. There are a number of financial trading movies, and even Peaky Blinders, which Roshana, who's also on the line, has seen me do to her cohort. I just think, people like Stephen Knight, Scorsese, they have 100 script writers and they're able to put something together. So let's steal with pride and just but put some form and structure that I know works in my sales career. You're right. There was exaggeration, but actually, when you're talking to someone on the phone, and we are getting into technicality, you haven't got the benefit of visuals, as we've perhaps now, you can't see non-verbal communications, which is 93% of communications. So you have to, speak up or talk down when you emphasize certain points. There's such a lot to a pitch, which I haven't had time to go into just now. So, but we are in pretty difficult times. We've got to get better at selling. That's the point. And so if this helps people learn in a way which is perhaps more engaging, then come to my introduction on sales on the 7th of October virtually. There's a shameless advert for you. It's free of charge. I'll do the Peaky Blinders thing then. And I really hope you'll enjoy it. It's free of charge next week. Perhaps, Peter, if I could send you a link to that, would that be okay for you to send out in the post-webinar communications? Would that be okay? I'm putting you on the spot now. I may get into big trouble for that. But
I'm sure so. I'm sure so. And well, you've just done it in the video as well. So that's going out.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. By the way, can I say, if anyone's got pen and paper with them, my email address is Keith, Keith, at salesmarvel.co.uk. You're very welcome to drop me a line and we'll figure out a time to chat. You're very welcome to do that.
Okay, Keith, I think you were looking in the chat, and I think you spotted some of this question as it came through. The question I've just put in is, in the video, Leo made an obvious exaggeration to catch the customer, and there's a point about ethics in here. And I'm so busy moving text around, I don't think you've answered that part of it. So, any advice on ethics?
Well. So here's the deal. Sales in particular in the United Kingdom, the profession of sales is held in low regard, and it's down to people like me, down to new people entering the sales arena to put that right. Frankly, let's get some integrity in there, because I will tell you now, if you misrepresent your offer, and actually it happens, sometimes it's deliberate. And I'll call them scams, and we all know that the world is full of them, particularly around COVID. But some of them are just honest mistakes, that they are rarer, but they do happen. Misrepresentation will come back and bite you in the backside every single time. Maybe not there and then, but at some point in your career, you'll be found out. So, so integrity has to run through everything that you do, and I just can't overemphasize that. What does Warren Buffett say? He says reputations take a lifetime to build and 5 minutes to destroy. If you think of it in that kind of context, then absolutely everything that you do. Now, sometimes you can be creative with a small c. Around, if you haven't got any clients, so let's go to that question. Have you got any clients? I don't, and the answer to that may not, you probably shouldn't be, actually, no, we haven't got any clients yet. If you just leave it hanging there, that's going to be a tricky one. But if you're very honest, upfront, candid, disarmingly honest, if you say, not with this company, we are a startup. So that's around positioning. We are a startup. However, in my career, I have done all these things. We have these resources, we have funding, and position it in a form of words that's low risk again, then you should be able to pave the way to encourage that client to come to you for that product or service. You've been upfront, you've been honest, there's no misrepresentation, in fact, but you have positioned it properly, you've managed expectations.
Thanks, Keith. A question about learning. Sometimes you'll get it right, sometimes you won't. It's a very fast-moving process. So, any tips for us on? Sometimes you get it right, and you want to learn from that. Any tips of, oh, that didn't go well, but how are you updating your skills? And yeah. Is it an art or is there a formality?
Well, I think there's an art and a process, actually. So what I would say is that the one thing you need to get is, just as you articulated, you know, Leo DiCaprio didn't get there overnight, and I'm not Martin Scorsese, but be you. So I would say, if you want to record a 60-second pitch, I'd record yourself on Zoom. It doesn't have to go out to the entire world. Record it and play it back and be objective. Or if you have a peer or a buddy, then perhaps you could do that for each other. And you can work on that and be objective. Try not to be too precious, take yourself too seriously. And this is a change particular to the COVID situation that we find all of ourselves in. I think people are forgiving. So because we're all equalized, we're all having to do stuff over video. So whereas 12 months ago, I might have picked someone up if they'd have said or a little bit too often. That's not now the case. And actually, you know what? I probably don't want to do business with someone that's going to be really picky around my speech. So I'm seeing some of that go on in the market. So be you. Be the best version of you that you can be. That's what I would say about that. And record your Zooms and play them back and learn them until you're more comfortable doing it.
Keith, I'm really worried about doing my ers and ums now. So I'm watching the time. We are very close to the hour. I'm just going to put one last question up, and it's about capturing the hearts and minds or the hearts of customers. So in recent years, telephone sales have swelled. Most people are a little resistant. In what way do you think it's better to capture the hearts of customers?
If I can paraphrase that, how do you get your telephone cold calling to work better? The one thing that really irks me as someone who works in that sector is the disregard, the disrespect that the person who's making the call has for someone else's time. Because, you know, let's face it, we are not there sat waiting for some energy company to ring us up and ask if we'd like cheaper electricity. No one's doing that. You might be in a 1,000-line spreadsheet. You might be in a meeting. No one's waiting for that. So here's what works for me is if I'm ringing up Peter just now, I would say, Peter answers the phone. I'd say, hi, Peter, this is Keith Rozelle. Listen, it's a bit of a cold call. Don't suppose you've got 30 seconds, have you? 99% of the time, Peter or whomever is on the other end of that phone, 99% of the time, they're going to admire your honesty and they're going to go, all right, 30 seconds, go. And then you've got hearts and minds. Now, the next 30 seconds is on you. You've got to do that right. So I think respecting the other person's time. And again, that's about empathy too.
Thank you very much, Keith. I'm going to have to cut the questions now. I hope I presented them back in a reasonably coherent order. Can you just click onto your next slide? Some people are asking for your contact details. So yeah. We'll go from my adverts to yours. So anyway, I formally want to thank you, Keith. Thank you very much for coming and joining us. Thank you very much for everything that you presented today. So we'll end there and welcome people back in a couple of weeks' time.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.